Hello, I'm Brett Knowles from PM² Consulting. This YouTube is a quick overview of the project we did for the Michigan Department of Transportation in helping them build a balanced scorecard. We did the Rapid Scorecard Week in early 2004. They've been using our scorecard since then and continuously improved it, and in fact are still using it in 2012. The Michigan Department of Transportation is a significant business unit with a budget of just under $2 billion US. They have an integrated system of highways, parking lots, railroads, airports, and so forth. Their performance measurement system that they have in place has won them a number of awards, and in fact is displayed prominently on their website along with a whole series of information about the scorecard that we help them build and the performance measures and targets that they work against. This case story provides an overview of how that work began. So we began, of course, with their existing mission, vision, values, and value proposition, and we used that to build the scorecard. Their scorecard followed the principles of the balanced scorecard and the same four perspectives. But for them, stakeholders was their overall highest output. To do that, they needed the right internal processes. To make those internal processes work, they needed the right enablers, and finally, they needed the foundational elements of the financial perspective. We then worked with them to extrapolate from their current strategy what their overall objectives were. So, for example, in the stakeholder perspective, their strategy described their need to provide one integrated transportation system that's low cost and on time. So as a strategy map, we began to draw the overall objectives and how they link towards success. Internally, they needed to make sure that they had more passengers with a lower investment and regain the passengers' trust through a number of service-related complaints and issues that MDOT was going through. So as a strategy map, we began adding on those objectives. Beneath that, they needed to focus on people, getting the right people, the right culture, and exploiting technology. So again, we added those objectives in. Now, it's important to note we didn't reinvent the strategy here. We just took advantage of the existing strategy documents and used those to develop the strategy map. The next step is we worked with leadership to establish the overall priorities. So, at the time of this project, they had a high focus on delivering internally, and to do that they needed to focus on having the right enablers and making sure that their customers recognize the benefits for the work that they did. So this weighting translated into a little bit more detail in terms of the weightings for each strategic objective. And from this you can see that their primary theme or focus for this year was attract and retain the best people, which is going to contribute to excellence by taking risks, building trust in the system so that we can increase throughput and deliver on-time travel. So the strategy map and the weightings became the backbone for the overall scorecard system. Now, bear in mind that we're just showing you the corporate level scorecard for MDOT as it cascaded down to other departments like operations, service, field, and IT. They all had their own strategy maps that described their contribution to strategy. Now at the corporate level we had an objective like deliver the right services, and as it cascaded down to each department we sorted out what they needed to do to respond to that overall strategic imperative. Their strategy maps became their service level agreement between the department and the overall MDOT. Now against those strategic objectives we then took a look at existing data and indicators to determine how we're going to measure each one of those objectives. So it's important to note the scorecard is based on the strategy, and once we understand the strategy we can sort out the indicators. So eventually this became deployed in Cognos' metric manager. It would look a bit like this: the strategy map with the performance indicators, the performance trend over time, and of course the overall weighting. Now, what's interesting is this particular performance, which is illustrative, brought home the point for them that normally they would chase after this objective because it's performing red. But in fact, they began to realize that a red at 5% was probably less important to them than a yellow performance trending down at 20%. So they began to be able to manage more strategically. And they should be able to drill into each of these objectives into an impact diagram, the linkage into the processes and projects which are necessary to achieve those strategic objectives. And from there, they could drill into additional detail through other Cognos tools such as Power Play, etc. They had a whole bunch of performance improvements that have won them a series of awards, but also some pragmatic examples of how the organization was able to see their performance and manage more effectively by seeing the performance in a heads-up, easy-to-understand format. Things began happening like they initiated a project, in this case carpooling, that was executed within a month, whereas before typically it took 18 months for those projects to get approved. The leverage technology enabled some projects around e-contracting, saving about $2.5 million a year and increasing the proposal accuracy by over 200%. Creating entrepreneurs allowed them to move towards things like fast passes and usage statistics, which were sold to car manufacturers, which allowed them to do better market segmentation. And things like e-pothole spotters allowed citizens to report spot holes, and it not only significantly reduced inspection times, but the time elapsed and cost of repair moved down significantly. So these are all benefits from rolling out the scorecard, not only within the Department of Transportation, but to the wider stakeholders. To learn more about this case study and other examples, please join us at pm2consulting.com. If you click on the Insight tabs, there's 200 or 300 webinars out there that describe case studies such as this one.